Welcome to meeting number 19 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs. We recognize that we meet on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on February 3rd, 2026, the committee is commencing its study of the subject matter of Clause 572, Division 35 of C15. As you recall, that is in regards to the letter that we received from Karina Gold, the finance chair, with such a request. I would like to welcome our witnesses, but before I go too far, just remember for interpretation, when you're not speaking, make sure your mic is off and your earpiece is away from the mic in the earpiece place so that it's not hard on our interpreters. So, good morning and welcome. The Honourable Rebecca Alty, Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. Good to see you. And thank you for responding so quickly to the motion passed on Monday. And witnesses, we also have the Department of Crown Indigenous Relation and Northern Affairs staff, starting with the Deputy Minister, Valerie Giddin. Thank you very much again, and good to see you, Valerie. Manon Nadeau-Belleau, Chief of Finance, Results and Delivery Officer. Elizabeth Pigeon, Director General, Modern Treaty Implementation. Benoit Chartrand, Manager. And Julia Redmond, Legal Counsel, Negotiations and Northern Affairs, Department of Justice. And Department of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, Jolene Dion, Director, Indigenous Police Services Division. Thank you very much. And Minister, please, you have 5 minutes.
Good morning and thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. J'apprécie l'occasion qui s'offre à moi aujourd'hui de m'adresser au comité au sujet du projet de loi C15, loi d'exécution du budget et plus particulièrement de notre proposition visant à abroger les articles 195 et 196 de la loi sur la commission NASCAPI et CRI-NASCAPI. Nous avons inclus ces dispositions dans la loi d'exécution du budget parce qu'elles répondent à une demande précise et à un besoin évident.
Technical, we're not getting the English. Okay. Yeah, we have it now. Could you start from the top, please?
Sure thing, a good dress rehearsal.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. J'apprécie l'occasion.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to speak to the committee about Bill C-15, which is the Budget Implementation Act, and in particular, our proposal to repeal sections 195 and 196 of the NASCAPI and the CRI-NASCAPI Commission Act. We have included these provisions in the Budget Implementation Act because they respond to a specific request and a clear need. Once in effect, the changes we're making will provide clarity regarding the NASCAPI Police's authorities on NASCAPI lands and will update funding arrangements so that they better reflect the nation's current needs and new agreement. I'm happy to inform this committee that these changes are fully supported by the NASCAPI Nation.
Part of a broader effort by Canada's government to advance self-determination and build Indigenous prosperity by ensuring that Indigenous partners have the resources and tools to make the decisions that matter to them. Budget 2025 reflects this effort. Another example of how we're doing this is through proposed amendments to the First Nations Fiscal Management Act. This change would allow the First Nations Finance Authority to lend to special purpose vehicles, or SPVs, which are First Nations project financing corporations created by First Nations to support participation in major economic and resource development projects. This would make it easier for communities to work together, reduce administrative barriers, and access affordable, reliable capital through an Indigenous financial institution. Un meilleur accès au financement favorise la
Better access to financing supports equity participation, job creation, and long-term economic growth for Indigenous communities. We're also expanding tools for building Indigenous infrastructure. Budget 2025 raises the Canada Infrastructure Bank's target for Indigenous infrastructure from $1 to $3 billion.
Not the final step towards ensuring that the energy, transportation, and broadband infrastructure Indigenous people need gets built. At the same time, we're doubling the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion. Communities have been clear, equity matters, and access to affordable financing is essential. This expansion responds directly to that call. But as we all know, financing alone doesn't build prosperity. Benefits need to flow directly into communities and not around them. If contractors can't bid on the work in their own communities, opportunity stops at the gate. That's why Budget 2025 proposes a bonding and surety pilot program to address a barrier that has kept too many First Nations contractors out of running for major infrastructure projects. Avec ce programme, davantage d'entreprises des premières.
With this program, more First Nations businesses can bid on construction and infrastructure work, can create local jobs, and keep more economic benefits in the community.
May seem small on their own, but together they tell a much bigger picture. They reflect a shift in how we work, away from one-size-fits-all solutions towards Indigenous-led design-making rooted in self-determination. By working directly with partners, advancing self-government agreements, putting action behind our commitments, and making targeted changes where they're needed, we're putting in place the building blocks for a more resilient future for Indigenous peoples across this country. Because at the end of the day, our government fundamentally believes that promoting self-determination is essential to building Indigenous prosperity and advancing reconciliation. À ce fin, nous réalisons des investissements essentiels.
To that end, we're also making critical investments to improve how we consult with Indigenous partners. Budget 2025 provides $10.1 million for the federal initiative on consultation.
Funding will support the co-development of consultation protocols with Indigenous rights holders so that consultations on projects are not only clear and respectful, but also meet or exceed legal and constitutional requirements. These protocols set shared expectations, reduce uncertainty, and support our efforts to renew relationships with Indigenous peoples by deepening our understanding of community perspectives and priorities. Whether it's the policies in the budget or the work I do every day as Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, our goal is straightforward: a Canada where Indigenous partners have the tools to lead, where communities can invest in, build, and benefit from the projects that affect their lands and futures. Mr. Chair, our government is taking practical steps to build reconciliation in partnership with Indigenous peoples, and we will continue to work with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, and modern self-government and treaty partners to advance Indigenous-led initiatives and promote self-determination. As we move forward and build a stronger, more resilient future for this country, we are equally determined to build a fairer, more equitable one. We're building a Canada where reconciliation is lived every day through shared decision-making and shared benefits. J'encourage tous les députés ici aujourd'hui à appuyer le budget.
I encourage all members here today to support the budget. I look forward to answering any questions you may have. Miigwech. Thank you.
Jim Miigwech, Minister, and let's go to the first round. The Conservatives are first for 6 minutes, and MP Schmel, please.
Thank you, Minister. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Minister, a few months ago, Thomson Reuters released a report showing some pretty dire numbers when it comes to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The study cites that despite being only 5% of the population, Indigenous women and girls account for over 50% of these trafficking victims. It also shows that in 124 cases, 67% of the victims are still missing. The average age is 30. Minister, it also shows that a large number of these human trafficking incidents are happening in some major cities, and that's where we're seeing some pretty significant increases in crime, extortion, anything to that effect we're hearing daily. Minister, when are we going to actually see some action on fixing the revolving door that has seemed to become our justice system, have some real penalties for these offenders, and stop releasing criminals back onto the streets?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for the question. It's a very important issue, and we are actually holding an Indigenous, federal, provincial, and territorial roundtable on the missing murdered Indigenous women and girls next week, and so I will circulate the agenda to committee members if you haven't received it yet. We would appreciate your presence at that. There's a number of initiatives that the government is working on. There's a number of crime bills that you mentioned that relates to making sure that victims are supported and to strengthen the bail reforms. And so I'd encourage the members to support those laws.
So,
There's
Mr.
also
just maybe if I could, we have talked about for many years on this side of the House how the changes to the justice system have harmed individuals, whether Indigenous or non-Indigenous. We're looking at these numbers, which are pretty dire, especially when you look at the number of Indigenous women that are going missing. And are you putting resources, like the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls report came out a number of years ago. What concrete steps have you taken, other than having a roundtable, to actually fund some task forces in law enforcement to look into these cases, find these women and girls, and bring them home?
Thank you. Yes, and it is two parts. So the first part, I think, is what I was mentioning, ensuring that all members support the crime bills. The other, though, is in the prevention and making sure that we have the funding in the budget to advance initiatives that support prevention as well as the healing. So there's a number of initiatives, including I was in Iqaluit in November and had the great opportunity to see their healing center there. That's Truth and Reconciliation, called action number 21. That's set to open in April. In January, I was in Fort Providence, where funding from ISK, they are building a 60-bed transitional and an emergency shelter for women and families. And that is due to weather. The units hadn't arrived the week that I was there. However, it is...
And that's good. We need to see concrete action that when the criminals are arrested, that they are put in jail. So we need tougher sentences. We need bail reform. We need investments in law enforcement. We're specifically talking in this case about a police service, Indigenous police service in Quebec. But where is the concrete steps to? It's great that you're talking about recovery. What are we doing to deter and then punish those responsible?
Exactly. So that was in my first round of answers.
The relevance of the, I mean, this is the Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations. We're asking a question that we need to get.
Murdered and missing women, Indigenous girls are Crown Relations.
So if you could just keep the microphones on, please. Sorry, the point that I was raising is that we're asking a question to a minister who's responsible for Cernak, but the question has to do with justice.
No.
The depth of the question would be for perhaps public safety or whatnot, but we do have someone from public safety as well if they wish to.
No, I'd like the minister, because the Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls report was Crown Indigenous Relations.
So she has answered,
like
but she has answered a little bit. But if you want more in-depth stuff,
I'll ask another question.
Okay.
Minister, your department, when we have met a few months ago regarding missing art, and of course it was misplaced art. Of course we can't call it missing, still not found, but we refuse to call it missing. So let's go with misplaced art. Your ministry has refused to provide details in regards to what actual pieces have gone missing. Why?
Thank you, and I appreciate the question, and it is important. One piece is too much, but as you know, that those pieces were from the loan program that has been discontinued, and so there was a number that were duplicate entries, and therefore they weren't misplaced. Some were located. And if you'd like, I can get the deputy minister to speak to.
I got notification here that your department is refusing to release the names of the pieces that are still missing. I'd like to know from you, Minister, why you haven't released that despite a Access to Information Act request.
Thank you, and if you'd like, I can get the Deputy Minister to respond to that.
Okay, maybe I'll get her in just a second. Maybe I can bounce over to this then. Minister, do you believe that two exclusive rights coexist at the same time, specifically in regards to land, Aboriginal title, and fee simple property?
That one is before the courts, so
I'm just asking in general.
Yeah, and so as the matters before the courts,
But there's others that aren't. So I just, in the wild imagination, do they still coexist or can they be separate?
As the matters before the courts, I'll let the courts.
I didn't specify a case. I just specified
No,
general.
but that's a matter before the courts, so
There's
I'll
many
let the
matters
courts.
before the courts. There's tons of land claims. There's tons of, I just asked in general.
And the matters
So
before
you're
the courts.
refusing to answer a general question on some, okay, so let's move this way. If you and your government expect to attract investment into this country to build our infrastructure, minerals, whatever, how can we do that when there is no clear direction from the federal government on the exclusive ownership of land, especially in British Columbia?
And that's all the time we have right now, so thank you
No,
very
no,
much.
Chair, I was
Thank you.
interrupted by points of order. There's 6:08 here on my clock. Mr. Morin's been timing, and the point of order,
Yes.
you kept the clock running. I am actually on.
And I had him keeping.
Did you
stuff.
stop the clock when the points of order? Well, how
She
can
can
we
bo-
have the difference?
I don't
You
think
did?
that.
I didn't see you stop. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he stopped it. We stopped it. So thank you. Thank you. So next we have Deputy Levac, s'il vous plaît, for 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister, for being with us here today, and thank you for your testimony. I'd like to change direction for a little moment. In your words, you spoke about housing, homelessness, and the importance of investing in infrastructure. Could you please? Sorry, I'll just ask my question first. Madam Minister, so we know that housing and lack of housing are persistent problems that Indigenous communities face. Our Indigenous partners have reacted to the budget by highlighting how much funding will support their communities. Can you speak to us about the ways in which housing will help these communities in a number of areas? Thank you very much for your question. Housing is very important in Canada, in particular in Indigenous communities and also in non-Indigenous communities. For the Indigenous communities, in the budget, there are $2.8 billion for urban.
Housing dollars. Ce projet-là.
And this project began a few years earlier. It was very successful. There were contributions directly with Indigenous communities. My riding is the Northwest Territories, so I see the housing being built because the funding goes from the federal government to the Indigenous communities. They buy houses and the houses are built in the communities. So this housing program is very important, but we also know that we need more than money for housing. We also need money for infrastructure. There are two other projects or items in the budget, such as investment on reserve for water and wastewater infrastructure, and in the Northwest Territories and Nunavut and other communities in Canada where the majority of the population is Indigenous. If they're not on reserve, they get money for infrastructure. It used to be through Canada Community Builds, but now it's through the Communities Fund. There has been an increase in funding for this as well in the budget. There's money for housing, but also for infrastructure, which supports housing building in communities. Thank you.
Merci. Donc, ma prochaine question.
Thank you. My next question is, in Budget 2025, the government talks about a pilot project for a loan guarantees and surety backstops for Indigenous communities. Communities have said this funding recognizes clearly the systematic lack of equality and testifies to a commitment to remedies these differences. And this will be done through a significant change, and it'll give more power to activities funded by or powered by Indigenous peoples. So how will communities be supported through this?
Oui, merci beaucoup pour la question.
Thank you very much for the question. This is very important because, as I said, regarding the money for housing and infrastructure such as drinking water, it's important that on-reserve businesses or businesses in the community be able to bid on these projects. And given the way in which the Act is drafted, they currently can't get bonding and surety. So this is why we created the pilot project. What's important here is that there's an amount set aside for businesses.
But they can use that to back their bid. Once the project is complete, that money gets released back into the pot, which then another company would be able to use that to bid on a project. So really important to be able to increase the business opportunities on reserve, so that it's not just infrastructure being built on reserve, but it's also community-led businesses building that infrastructure.
Une dernière question. Donc,
One final question. Earlier you talked a little bit about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I was in Winnipeg when we announced the launch of the report that was drafted by the Indigenous community on this. And in it there were recommendations. This is a specific report which reflects the importance of having governments working together. Provincial, territorial, and federal governments all are responsible for dealing with this. Can you speak to us a bit more about this and what your perspective is?
Sorry, I guess it automatically turned the mic on. And thanks for the question. And actually, we're doing a whole session on that next week in the Indigenous, Federal, Provincial, Territorial IFPT. And so that is the opportunity for Winnipeg, for Manitoba to share their work on that, and for the other provinces, territories, and federal government to talk about how this could roll and how this could look in their area. I know in the budget there's also some work for with public emergency preparedness, and so there might be some opportunities to work together.
Thank you very much, and make sure you circulate the invite to the committee that you mentioned. Okay, next we have Deputy Gill. 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being with us here today and for very quickly being willing to meet with us. I'd like to say from the outset that as a member from the Naskapi Nation, well, Naskapi is in my riding, and so I'd like to say this is the object of today's meeting. So obviously, abrogation has to do with connecting legislation, so we're for this, and the different chiefs and chiefs of police have spoken here, and they agree with what is being planned. So I'd like to simply say that as a MP, we see what happens in our riding. When it comes to violence, I met with the police services in my riding, and we've talked about a lot of things, what's going on, trafficking in people, drugs, gangs. This is things we see a lot in our riding. And I know there's a study here on Indigenous police services, and all our communities would like these services to be recognized. Now, I'm a Bloc Québécois member, but I support this funding because I think it needs to be connected to our reality. And our writing is a little different. So I have a question here that was raised by the Naskapi themselves, and it has to do with the commission, the Cree Naskapi Commission, where there's currently 3 vacancies at the commission. We know You've received candidacies in September. And so I'd like to know when the 3 vacancies will be filled, because this is an important function when it comes to providing police services. Thank you.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate that the process is taking a long time, and this is something we would like to shorten. We want to accelerate the process. Sorry, we don't want to slow it down. I used the wrong word. We'd like to accelerate the process because it's important that we have people in place, because if there's nobody there to fill the vacancies, then the business is slowed down. Is there anything else to be added to this?
Madame la Ministre. Merci, Madame Gill.
Thank you for your question. So the nominations for the vacancy comes from the parties themselves. We've received nominations a few months ago. Everything is ongoing right now in order to proceed to the appointments. And it should happen in the next few months. So as the minister said, the process is a long one, but everything is advancing as it should. Thank you very much. Well, we were wondering, because it seems that there's no deadline for filling the vacancies, so we're hoping that it'll be done quickly, but we weren't really sure. So what's a normal amount of time, and why is there no deadline for filling these 3 vacancies? Well, sometimes it can be a little difficult because we're asking our partners for names, and it can take time to get the names. But this is also why we're going to review the whole process in government and find ways to speed up the process. We can definitely take note of your questions and review our system to see if there are ways to speed things up. When it comes to our office, that's when things are faster, but we will have a look at the process and provide you with more information. Thank you very much, Minister. I have one last question that has to do with your mandate, because you talked about a number of portfolios, you defended the budget as well, but I'd like to come back to your work. You've had a number of mandates, and all ministers have received the same mandate letter, so it gives you a certain amount of freedom. So I'd like to, perhaps I can kind of guess what your responsibilities are given the budget, but basically, what are your priorities? Other ministers we've asked have said they're relatively free when it comes to setting goals, but with regards to you and your department, what are the priorities in your mandate? Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. I have a number of priorities, but one that I've heard a lot about when I was talking with partners is to accelerate the process of additions to reserve. It's in budget 2025 as well. We're going to review the whole process that began before me. There was a lot of meetings with First Nations across Canada to ask how we can accelerate this. We've received a lot of feedback on this, and there have been submissions for new Indigenous ways of doing things. This is one of my big priorities. We've taken steps to accelerate and figure out how we can speed things up in future. So once I'm not in this position anymore, how can things continue to move forward quickly? Thank you very much.
For the Conservatives now, for 5 minutes, we have MP Zimmer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for coming to committee today. We're here talking specifically about amendments to Bill C-15, as you know. And the particular section I want to focus on, it talks about agreements to receive external policing services as being repealed. We were just recently, or had a study about Indigenous policing. And one thing that became abundantly clear was resources were very sparse, they were very limited, and many of them said that they weren't going to participate in your liberal confiscation of firearms. So I guess my question to you is, this even limits the police force in this situation even more so. Do you support using sparse resources to go after law-abiding firearms owners' firearms?
Are you talking about section 195 and 196?
196 specifically.
196? Okay, so I think it is important for this, the repealing of this section, it's an administrative. There's nothing that changes on the day-to-day.
Maybe just answer my question then. Instead of getting into the nuances of the legislation, I asked you specifically, do you support using sparse police resources, especially in community, to take away law-abiding firearms owners' firearms? Because it's related to Section 196.
Well, it's not related to Section 196.
It is, because it says it's going to limit the ability to receive external policing services. And one thing that the public safety minister said, in going to collect law-abiding firearms owners' firearms, they're going to go and get police officers that possibly are retired and bring in these external forces because there's such a lack of police resources in community. This is limiting that ability to do that. That's why I'm asking you, do you support using limited police resources to go after law-abiding firearms owners' firearms?
Thank you. So, as the deputy mentioned, the chief of the NSCAPI as well as the chief of police did appear before Senate earlier this week.
I'm actually asking about firearms specifically, and I just answer the question, Minister. I'll move on to my next one. If you don't want to answer, just say.
No, so I am answering. So, Section 196.
No, I'm asking, do you support using...
Just let her try and answer the question, because I don't know where she's going.
She's tried this 3 or 4 times where she's deliberately
But she's only
not
had a couple of
answering the
seconds to answer.
question.
Just let her try and
Go
answer
ahead.
it for her first bit,
Go ahead.
please.
Yeah, so Section 196 is to avoid inconsistencies with the new provisions of the Northeastern Quebec Agreement.
I'm not hearing an answer yet. So
Hold on.
I'm asking you about...
I can't make that determination because she's
I guess
not
I'm
finishing.
just, again, I asked if you were talking about Section 196.
I am, and it talks about agreements to receive external policing services. And then I asked you about whether you support using those limited services. Now, because of this, do you support using those limited resources to go after law-abiding firearms owners' firearms? And maybe more specifically, Minister, you're from a very rural place. You're from the Northwest Territories. Members of the committee before your previous representative, Mr. McLeod, courageously, just like the member from Yukon who's in this meeting currently, voted against your government's ability to confiscate law-abiding firearms owners' firearms, ones that they hunt with and provide sustenance to their families. Do you support the gun confiscation program of your Liberal government? Yes or no?
Thank you. That's a different question than your first one, so appreciate that. So the expert panel, that's what provides the recommendations.
Yes or no question is what I'm asking you. I'm asking you as
Just
an
let her
MP,
answer. I
but
can't
she's
make
not,
that determination.
She's not answering it. It's a yes or no question. It takes 5 seconds to even say yes or no.
I support expert panels that consult with Indigenous communities and Indigenous elders, which is what the last expert panel did.
Okay,
And
so
the panel
getting back-
didn't recommend the SKSs, as many Indigenous hunters use that.
The Weatherby Mark V is on there. There's shotguns. There's 22s that are actually on the list. The previous member for Northwest Territories, like I said before, Michael McLeod, voted against it. We even had a chat afterwards, and he says, yeah, Bob, I don't know what... They don't think that we use these rifles to hunt with, but he says we use them to hunt buffalo. Like he admit, and even the member, Dr. Hanley, voted against it for similar reasons, because you come from a very hunting-centric community or communities. So I'm asking you a simple question, and maybe I'll make it a bit more blunt. If it comes to a vote to support gun confiscation of law-abiding firearms owners' firearms that they used to hunt with, are you going to vote for your constituents, or are you going to vote for your government?
Thank you. And I think I would look to the Conservative Justice Minister, Kim Campbell, where she said in 1991, it's important to regulate the types of firearms associated with the greatest risk to public safety
I didn't hear
and
an answer
relatively
there.
few,
I'm gonna
if
move on to
any,
my next
legitimate sporting uses.
Because
The other one's a good one is from 2012, Prime Minister Harper.
So just hold on a sec, because I'm going to move on, because you're
Just a mo-
clearly not answering the question, and I know why. Because it's
MP Zimmer.
No,
MP
I did
Zimmer,
answer the
hold
question.
Hold on.
she's not answering the question, Chair.
Well,
It's
I have a point of order that I wish to
Yes.
hear.
The witness should have equal time to respond to the
that's not-
question as the
it's-
amount of
it's actually
time
my
the
time.
member
It's actually my time.
asked the question.
It's actually my time.
Okay, so let's.
That's how it
Okay,
works.
first of all, let's just take a deep breath, because what I want to do is make sure we respect the interpreters, because it's very, very difficult when people are doing this, and it's hard on their health. So please,
With respect,
I'll
Chair,
allow the minister to-
we or no for the interpreters. It's a simple yes or no answer.
I'm going to turn it to
question.
the minister, please. And I've stopped the clock during the point of order, and we will continue now. So allow the minister to.
I'm going to move on to my next question.
All right, next question.
So, the Prime Minister said not that long ago, Canadians will hold us to account by their experience at the grocery store when they are paying their electricity bill, when they or their children are looking for a place to live. That's what the Prime Minister said. I have a bill from Yellowknife from Steve, and for 1 month alone, it's from November 26th to December 29th. The bill, it's going to shock most of us in the room, was $882 for an electrical bill. Is that affordable, Minister?
You have 10 seconds.
No, and then that's why we are introducing measures. So there's the groceries and essentials tax credit. The other thing I would point in that is in the recent announcement, which I'm hoping that will continue, the Conservatives will support, is the $20 million in food infrastructure loan, which includes supports for harvesters. There's a great study that shows $50 invested in hunters is actually able to feed 20 families, versus $50 invested in imported meat is only supporting 3.3. So there's work to do in regards to electricity, and we'll be working with the territorial government on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go to MP Hanley, who is online. MP Hanley, please unmute yourself and proceed with your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I just check that audio is working for the interpreters?
I have a thumbs up from the interpreters. Thank you for the consideration.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Minister, and thank you, officials, for appearing. And I want to just come back to the subject of Indigenous policing, and specifically around this proposed legislative change. We've heard the general support for the change, including, most importantly, from the Naskapi Nation. But can you go into a bit more detail on how this will actually affect the delivery of policing services for the Naskapi Nation, given, again, that we have just had a study on Indigenous policing, a very important study. We're looking forward to those recommendations, but in that general context of delivery of policing services for the nation.
Thank you for the question. So happy to speak about Section 195 and 196 that we're looking to repeal. As mentioned, the chief, as well as the chief of police, were at Senate earlier this week. And the chief of police did note there's no difference to the day-to-day operations. It is about the regulatory cleanup. And there haven't been jurisdictional issues yet by having the modern treaty as well as is there challenges continuing? So there haven't been any jurisdictional issues yet. However, we're looking to avoid that, so addressing that now. So at the end of the day, residents won't see a difference by repealing these sections. It's business as usual. However, with their with the new Northeastern Quebec Agreement, it's the policing authority is addressed there, so this is redundant now.
Thank you, Minister. And we know that this is one aspect contained within Bill C-15, currently in committee. Can you talk about? We've seen obstructive tactics from the Conservatives. We've been trying to pass some very important justice and public safety legislation. There's a lot more in this Budget Implementation Act. There's investments in clean energy and defense and infrastructure and housing, all of which are as important for Indigenous people, First Nations, as they are for all Canadians, in fact. So can you talk about the importance of passing the BIA, the Bill C-15, as quickly as possible?
Thank you. Yes, definitely encourage all members to pass the BIA as quickly as possible. There's money for infrastructure, for housing, as responded to MP Levesque's. So there's a lot of really important projects that since the budget's been released, communities have been excited and they want to get the ball rolling on. And really, it's time is of the essence. We're approaching the summer and construction season, so we do want to be able to get the budget passed as soon as possible. While you do mention other legislation, I would encourage all members. We have C10, the Commissioner for Modern Treaties, which is up for debate on Monday. I do hope the Conservatives will let the debate collapse so that it can be referred to your committee so you can discuss it further and you can hear directly from modern treaty leaders. The Land Claims Coalition will be here in Ottawa next week, and that includes a lot of modern treaty chiefs. And so I know that they will also be urging committee members and all parties to let debate collapse so they can come here and have a robust discussion with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister. You actually preempted my next question. So, but to give a little bit of context from a Yukon perspective, Bill C-10. This is of course the Modern Treaty Commissioner legislation. This is being reintroduced as we were not able to have it successfully passed in the last Parliament. I can tell you that Yukon First Nation chiefs are very anxious that we proceed and get this bill passed. We again have seen this surprisingly obstructed by Conservative members, and I want to reiterate the support for getting C-10 passed. So if you have any additional comments, I guess we're out of time.
Yeah, thank you.
We've made our points. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Gill for 2.5 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, for reminding us that it's about connecting legislation, because my understanding is that the Conservatives are challenging the work that Quebec has done on the file and what the Naskapi have done on the file, and yet this is a tripartite effort. So I'd like to thank you for clarifying that point. I would like to ask a very general question regarding your mandate, in particular with regards to Quebec. Obviously, the work done for Quebec can help everybody, but it might be more specific to Quebec, which is obviously of interest to me. So I'd like to hear what you have to say on the matter. Thank you.
Oui, merci beaucoup pour la question.
Thank you very much for your question. I think that each province and territory has differences, but it's by working with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in each jurisdiction that will help us understand what our partners want. Do they want a self-government agreement? Do they want a modern treaty? Do they prefer a sectoral agreement? So in Quebec, I was in Quebec City in January, and I met with First Nations, and they're ready to come to an agreement on education. This is extremely important because this would be education provided by First Nations. The results will be good. I'm working very hard with the department on this file because I think this is a good example of success in Quebec. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, 5 minutes for the Conservatives and MP Schmale.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, thank you, Minister. Going back to the art pieces, we have a collection valued at about $14.4 million, estimated from your department, $49,000 worth of either paintings, jewelry, sculptures, you name it, still missing. And during the last Heritage Committee, it was misplaced, not missing. Now, obviously misplaced means temporary, but according to Blacklock's reporter, your department is informing the artists that you're able to identify as having their works misplaced, that they're missing. So have we upgraded now from misplaced to missing? Are we at that stage? And why is your department blocked access to information requests to find out what exactly the pieces are that are missing and which artists there are affected?
Thank you. I do think it's important, and it's one of our principles is working with our partners first and foremost. So making sure that we're in discussions with them before they read about it in the news. So that was the important first step that we were taking.
Okay. Out of those pieces that are missing, misplaced, how many are missing? How many are misplaced?
The numbers, Deputy, do you have those on the?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So out of the 132 unaccounted for items, we have 71 that remain unaccounted, but 66 of those 71 were acquired by regional offices prior to 1994. So just to respond, we have contacted all of the artists as noted. They have not consented in writing to sharing the information through the Access to Information Act request. That is why we are unable to provide the information on that front, because we do not have their written consent.
Okay. In terms of reconciliation, Minister, the Supreme Court mentions two things. One, that the Crown reconciling for past injustices needs to be done. The second, the burden on governments to reconcile Indigenous interests with broader public interests. Do you believe in that, Minister?
Yes, and those are the principles that we use, and and again, when it's negotiating self-government agreements, modern treaties, sectoral agreements, so devolving authority when the nations ask, so whether that's education, whether that's police, it's important that we work with the nations to advance those.
So how do we move forward? How do we advance those without indefeasible private property?
So we did, at the Cowichan trial, defended the validity of fee simple title, and we continue to do that. And I think the Haida is an example where it's in working with the nations to come to those agreements outside of the court process.
So you're safe to say that the federal government will argue for fee simple property rights?
That is what we did during the case, and as it's being appealed, it's before the courts. But that's the argument that we continue to do.
Okay. With this latest business, kind of trying to get standing in this committee, or in the hearing, are you concerned this will drag the court case on even longer? It's one of Canada's longest, if not the longest, court case in history. Does the government have any concerns with the fact that until there is some certainty regarding a final decision here, property owners within the city of Richmond are impacted by this? Many can't sell. The province has had to come in to backstop loans and mortgages. Are you concerned with this latest development that this could go on a lot longer and put a lot of people in great stress?
I think it is important to acknowledge that it is stressful, the uncertainty. However, I think the landowners would also want the federal government and all governments to continue to appeal this. So we are continuing to appeal it. Land ownership and titles do fall within the provincial jurisdiction, which is where the province has stepped up and is backstopping any potential loans that are needed.
Okay. I'll pass it off to Mr. Morey.
Oh, geez. 20 seconds.
You're welcome.
You can make a statement, probably.
As the Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, do you agree to uphold the Treaty 6 text that says cede, release, surrender, and yield up to the government of the Dominion of Canada, Her Majesty, the Queen, and her successors forever all rights and titles and privileges whatsoever to the lands specified within, yes or no?
The interpreter is pointing out that the text is being read very quickly, and they don't have a copy of it, so it's very hard for them to interpret it. Thank you very much.
Sure. Provide that in writing, and the minister will respond in writing, please. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have, for the Liberals, for 5 minutes, we have MP Earl.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister. I think you and I could very easily agree that in this great country of Canada, we've got certainly urban, we definitely have rural, and we have northern. And I'm a proud northern MP. And I think when I use the word northern, a couple of other descriptors come to mind. Fascination, which to me means excitement. And I think for some, that northern fascination may be with firearms. I'm not in that category. I believe that preoccupation is another one, and preoccupation is focused. And I believe you, like me, very much focused on the North and making things different in the North. So when we look at the Budget Implementation Act and some of the great things that have been brought forward, you alluded to some of them earlier around housing, infrastructure, and supports for the North, particularly around special vehicles. I'm wondering if you could talk to the committee about some of the things that's contained in the Budget Implementation Act that's been stalled, just stalled, obstructed. Can you tell us more about some of these things that would actually be really good for the North, things that Northerners are preoccupied with, Northerners are focused on, and less fascinated by?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, there's a number of things. One would be the Arctic Infrastructure Fund. It's been many years, and that infrastructure is core. So whether that's highways, ports, airports, the Arctic infrastructure, that $1 billion is really important. I would also say the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and so that's an increase from $35 billion to $45 billion. I was in Halifax on Friday and talking to people there about the importance of it and how much they're using the Canada Infrastructure Bank to diversify their energy portfolio, like wind. In the Northwest Territories, where I'm from, M18 is a natural gas plant that's shovels in the ground right now to build M18, and that one's really important. At the beginning of January, for anybody who was following, Inuvik was almost running out of gas, and it was minus 50. To be able to conserve gas at that time is pretty difficult. Having M18 online would have had that reliable source, and so M18 has received their funding through the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So being able to support this budget, to have more investments in the Canada Infrastructure Bank's good. There's many investments in D&D. We're seeing the challenges around the world and the potential threats to our sovereignty. So making sure that we get those investments approved as soon as possible for our forces, I think, is really important. Critical minerals, there's the Critical Mineral Sovereign Fund, there's the Last Mile Fund. Those ones are really important. And in meeting with the CEO of Pine Point right after the budget was released, and he was so excited about the opportunities because of critical minerals. And again, it's about those jobs in communities, but critical minerals is also being able to support all this technology that is surrounding us in this room. And so there's a lot of things. Housing, the urban, rural, northern. It was appreciated being up in Happy Valley Goose Bay in November, and also making those investments for Nain, for Rigolet, for many of the communities in the Nunatsiavut, to be able to diversify and for communities to be able to displace their diesel content. There's investments in here for those energy needs. And again, energy infrastructure isn't a nice to have. It's life or death in the north. MP Hanley for the Yukon, I also think, was really struggling with power outages. And so really urge members to pass the budget as soon as possible so that we can get these dollars out to support our communities. That's what our residents voted us here to do.
Again, Minister, and in that focus, and thank you for talking about my riding of Labrador and the investments that our government has made into green energy, and having been there with you, working closely with the Nunatsiavut government and having that connection with the Innu Nation in other projects that we want to do, all to displace the heavy dependence on fuel. We heard in this committee this morning about an electricity bill that was, sub $1,000 for a month. Nobody can argue that that's inexpensive, but I know that some of the plans that that you've been leading and focused on with ridings like mine in Labrador will go a long ways in that regard. I do thank you for your time.
That's the time. Thank you very much, Minister, and to all of your staff, Deputy, and to your staff, to Public Safety too as well for being here. Now we have satisfied the first hour of the request from the letter, and the clerk is in the process of contacting the Naskapi and the Cree Naskapi communities for their opportunity if they wish to either appear here or provide something in writing. The clerk is on it, and we will satisfy MP Schmel's resolution by February 27th, and we will have a report back, a discussion to the Finance Committee. So thank you ever so much for this. Was very helpful for us. And one more thing before I let you go, and I apologize, but I sometimes do this at the beginning or the end, but I wanted to kick things off. I would like the committee's approval to pay for this study in the amount of $6,500 at the most. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then the final one, just we're going to be landing the land base study, and the request is for $7,000 for that budget. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We suspend.